March 4th, 1918. A massive cargo vessel leaves Barbados heading for Baltimore. 300 men aboard, 11,000 tons of manganese ore in the hold. The USS Cyclops should arrive in 10 days. It never does. No distress signal. No debris field. No bodies washing ashore. 300 people and a 500-foot steel ship. Gone. Vanished like smoke. Investigators floated theories for decades. U-boat attack, structural failure, rogue wave. But here's what made everyone's skin crawl. The Cyclops disappeared in waters already infamous for swallowing ships whole. A triangular zone stretching from Miami to Puerto Rico to Bermuda. You know the name. The Bermuda Triangle. Planes fall from the sky here. Compasses spin wildly. Sailors report ghost ships drifting empty. Crews vanished mid-voyage. In 2020, a boat with 20 passengers disappeared without a trace in these exact waters. It's become shorthand for the ocean's most dangerous place. Except it's mostly mythology. We've actually recovered wrecks people swore were supernatural mysteries. The SS Cotopaxi, missing since 1925, turned up 95 years later at the bottom. No aliens, just physics. Scientists have rational explanations for almost everything. The Gulf Stream is a conveyor belt dragging wreckage hundreds of miles from crash sites. Sudden squalls materialize without warning. Methane eruptions from the seafloor can reduce water density so fast a ship simply drops like a stone. And statistically, the triangle isn't even in the top 10 for maritime disasters. Other waters claim far more ships, hide genuinely terrifying threats, and make the Bermuda Triangle look like a duck pond. Today, we're diving into waters that will actually kill you. Places where the dangers aren't mysterious. They're documented, measurable, and actively hunting, including one threat you'd never expect. Plastic bottles. Sounds ridiculous, right? It's not. This garbage is an extinction-level catastrophe for ocean life, and it's coming for us too. But we'll get to that nightmare. First, let's talk about seas where the water itself wants you dead. The North Sea. If you've doom-scrolled through ocean horror content on TikTok, you've seen the footage. Waves the size of apartment buildings, commercial ships tilting at 45-degree angles, sailors clinging to railings while the ocean tries to peel them off like a fruit sticker, all set to dramatic music that makes your chest tight. That's the North Sea, and it's not exaggerated. This is deceptively shallow water, barely 700 meters at its deepest, half the Mediterranean's average depth. There's literally a giant sandbar in the middle called Dogger Bank, sitting just 20 meters below the surface. Shallow means fast currents. Fast currents mean chaos. The winds here don't blow, they attack. In 1703, a single storm obliterated 300 English warships anchored off the southern coast. 8,000 sailors drowned in one night. The Thames River overflowed and demolished thousands of London homes. In 1953, a storm surge turned the Netherlands into an aquarium. Water rose 4.5 meters above normal sea level, punching through dikes, drowning nearly 2,000 people and sterilizing farmland with salt for years. The North Sea floor is a junkyard of shipwrecks. Over 1,000 confirmed, probably twice that many we haven't found. Many still carry live ammunition from World War I. The Battle of Jutland alone sank 25 warships and killed 8,500 men. Those wrecks are leaking fuel and corroding explosives that could detonate any time. For context, there's a ship at Pearl Harbor that's been leaking oil for over 80 years. Imagine that times 1,000. Then there's Piper Alpha, 1988. An offshore oil platform, not a ship, but the disaster defines North Sea danger. A gas leak ignited. The explosion killed the day shift instantly. They never left their bunks. The night crew outside couldn't reach the lifeboats. Flames shot 200 meters into the air, creating a thermal updraft so intense helicopters couldn't approach. 60-meter drop to the ocean. That was the only escape. Men jumped and prayed. 2 hours later, the entire platform collapsed into the sea. The fire burned on the water's surface for 3 weeks. Out of 226 workers, only 61 survived. Modern tech has improved safety, sure. Weather prediction, better engineering. Accidents are rarer now, but rare doesn't mean gone. Just this March, fog rolled into a port, and a cargo ship plowed straight into a moored tanker. One dead, crew traumatized. The North Sea doesn't forgive mistakes. But if you want genuinely apocalyptic waters, head south. Way south. Cape Horn, the graveyard at the end of the world. A jagged rock at the southern tip of South America where the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans collide with the force of continental drift. The Antarctic circumpolar current circles the bottom of the planet clockwise, accelerating through the narrow gap. Crossing Cape Horn means sailing directly into 30-meter waves and 100-kilometer winds. For centuries, this was the only route between Europe and Asia's Pacific coast. It was a death sentence. The Susanna left Europe in 1905 bound for Chile. It took 99 days to round the Horn, 99 days of continuous storms. When they finally reached land, most of the crew couldn't walk. Broken bones, scurvy, typhus. Some ships looked at Cape Horn and said absolutely not. The Bounty was supposed to cross to Tahiti. They turned around and sailed 50,000 extra kilometers, literally halfway around the world, rather than face those waters. Why not just go slightly south and avoid the worst of it? Because south of Cape Horn lies something worse, the Drake Passage, 1,000 kilometers straight of open ocean between South America and Antarctica. 0 land masses to break up the current. The Antarctic circumpolar current here is 5 times stronger than the Gulf Stream, 100 times the Amazon River's flow. Sailors have a saying, below 40 degrees south, there is no law. Below 50 degrees south, there is no God. The Drake Passage sits at 60 degrees south. In 1819, the San Telmo, a Spanish ship carrying 644 soldiers, attempted the crossing. A wave snapped the hull like a toothpick. Every single person drowned. It's still the deadliest Drake Passage disaster on record. These days, cruise ships actually take tourists through here to see Antarctic penguins. Even the Vendée Globe, a solo round-the-world yacht race, routes through Cape Horn as a badge of honor. But people still die. Gyrek, a competitive sailor, disappeared near the Cape during a race. A fellow competitor diverted through a storm trying to rescue him. Found nothing. They recovered fragments of his boat a year later. In 2020, a rogue wave hit the cruise ship Viking Polaris, blew out windows, and swept a 62-year-old passenger overboard. Her body was never recovered. The Drake Passage doesn't care about modern technology. It will kill you if you're unlucky. Now, let's talk about water where humans are the main threat, the South China Sea. This one's complicated. Geographically, it's typhoon central. Storms here have literally torn cargo ships in half, killing dozens. But the real danger is political. Over 20% of global shipping passes through the Malacca Strait on the western edge. Oil to China, manufactured goods to Europe. The sea itself is rich with fish stocks that 10 different countries depend on for survival. And they're all fighting over it. International law says a country controls ocean territory 370 kilometers from its coastline, an exclusive economic zone where they can fish, drill for oil, and enforce their rules. Sounds simple until you realize the South China Sea is basically a bathtub surrounded by competing nations. Everyone's EEZ overlaps everyone else's. So how do you claim more territory? Build islands. China pioneered the strategy with the Great Wall of Sand, artificially constructed islands in the Spratly Archipelago, over 13 square kilometers of new land where there used to be just reefs. Instant military bases, instant sovereignty. The Philippines got creative. In 1999, they accidentally ran a decommissioned World War II Navy ship aground on 2nd Thomas Shoal, totally on purpose. It's been sitting there rusting for 25 years, and as long as it exists, the Philippines claims the surrounding waters. China has its own reef nearby and routinely blocks supply ships trying to keep the wreck habitable. It's warfare without weapons. A Cold War played out with Coast Guard vessels and fishing boats, crews get injured, ships get rammed, but nobody fires missiles because nobody wants actual war. Vietnam's involved too. Tensions are constant. Meanwhile, the typhoons keep coming, indifferent to human politics. Then there's the Gulf of Aden, where the threat is straightforward. Armed men will board your ship and hold you for ransom. When you think pirate, you picture Johnny Depp with eyeliner, wooden ships, tropical islands, treasure chests. Romanticized nonsense from the 1700s. Modern piracy is brutal and efficient. Small crews with assault rifles on speedboats. They target slow-moving cargo ships, board them, and take hostages. Somali pirates dominated the Gulf of Aden in the early 2000s. 56% of global piracy attacks in 2011 alone. Just this March, 3 guys stormed a bitumen tanker in the Gulf of Guinea and kidnapped 10 crew members. Ransoms run into millions of dollars. September 2008, the most infamous case. Somali pirates hijacked the Fena, a Ukrainian cargo ship. Standard ransom situation until they opened the hold and found 33 Soviet-era T-72 tanks and crates of ammunition. Suddenly, they're sitting on a floating arsenal worth more than any ransom. They locked the crew in a room and threatened to blow the entire ship unless they got paid. The standoff lasted 5 months. The captain died from a stress-induced heart attack. Some crew members tried to revolt and failed. Eventually, a $3 million ransom was paid and everyone walked away. The pirates never touched the weapons. They didn't even know what they'd captured. Here's the thing. These guys don't consider themselves criminals. In interviews, they call themselves Coast Guards, because technically, that's how it started. Somalia collapsed into civil war decades ago. No functional government. Foreign fishing fleets moved in and strip-mined Somali waters. Foreign corporations dumped toxic waste offshore, and local fishermen watched their livelihoods evaporate while their government did nothing. So they armed themselves, started boarding foreign vessels and demanding payment. It escalated into organized crime with investors funding operations. But the underlying cause, foreign exploitation of Somali resources, never went away. They even had a pirate capital, the town of Isle in Puntland, an autonomous region where law enforcement basically didn't exist. International task forces cracked down hard in the 2000s. The EU ran Operation Atalanta, naval patrols, armed escorts for commercial ships. Piracy dropped to nearly zero between 2021 and 2022, but it's surging again. 6 attacks in 2023, 22 last year. Same reason as before, local populations getting exploited while foreign powers extract resources. The symptom was treated, the disease wasn't. Finally, the most polluted waters on Earth, the Mediterranean. You've heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, that Texas-sized island of plastic floating in the North Pacific. Currents swirl it into a concentrated mass. Plastic doesn't decompose, it just breaks into smaller pieces under sunlight and salt. Microplastics. Fish eat them, birds eat them. That famous photo of the dead albatross with a stomach full of bottle caps and lighters. That's the garbage patch. Scientists estimated it at 3 times the size of France a few years ago. It's bigger now. Thousands of tons of plastic bottles, fishing nets, food wrappers, all from human activity. The Mediterranean is worse, 4 times worse. According to a 2018 study, the Mediterranean contains 1.25 million plastic fragments per square kilometer. Europe is the world's second largest plastic producer after China, and a huge percentage ends up in this enclosed sea. Turkey and Egypt contribute massive amounts of waste. Mass tourism dumps sunscreen, cigarette butts, soda cans. Researchers sent a submersible to Calypso Deep, the Mediterranean's deepest point, over 5,000 meters down. They found 167 pieces of trash, mostly plastic, at the literal bottom of the ocean. Corsica has started imposing tourist quotas. Other regions are considering it. But the real solution requires governments and corporations to stop producing single-use plastic, because this pollution doesn't stay in the ocean. Those microplastics get eaten by fish, which get eaten by you. They're in your bloodstream right now, linked to cancer, endocrine disruption, allergies. The ocean feeds us, connects continents. We've explored it, exploited it, pushed technology to minimize the dangers. Modern ships navigate waters that would have killed sailors a century ago. We've gotten comfortable, but here's the truth we keep forgetting. The ocean always wins. There will always be a wave big enough to sink your ship. A storm strong enough to shatter steel. Sea levels are rising. Our coastal cities will drown no matter how many walls we build. And long after humanity is gone, the ocean will still be here, indifferent and eternal. So maybe we should respect it. Find a way to coexist during our brief time on this planet, because the alternative is drowning in our own garbage while the waves close over our heads.